All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I'm going to give all praises, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Baharu Kakwadash. Double honors to the apostles, the elder bishops, and the elders of the great millstone. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect out here toiling in this truth. And Shalom to the few Akwathim who listen and learn in silence. To all of you, I say Shalom. I'm the brother Pathak Amath, GMS Dallas. I'm just coming back at you with a really quick hit lesson. I'm going to entitle this one, E is a servant meant to serve Jacob. E is a servant meant to serve Jacob. And that's it, man. You know what I'm saying? These devils ain't nothing, man. They ain't nobody, man. You know what I'm saying? Of course, right now with the earth being given into the hand or the power of the wicked, into their hands, it would seem, to the unlearned or someone who doesn't know this truth, understand the truth of the Bible, that these people are in good case, that these people are all powerful, and that they're going to basically reign forever. And that's just not the case at all, man. You know what I'm saying? The scriptures prophesy them to be servants, man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, these people are headed they're going to dive head first into chains, man, into captivity, into slavery, man, for 1,000 years. And that's what the Bible is talking about. And that's what they have to look forward to. That's what they have coming to them, So, without any further ado, I don't want to make this too long. I want to kind of run through this as quick as I can. I don't want to make it too long. I know Jake's attention span ain't that long. So let's just get into it real quick. This is Genesis chapter 25. And we're going to jump down to verse 23. And it reads, and Yahweh Bashem Yahushai Salaki, and Yahweh Bashem Yahushai said unto her, and who is the her? Rebekah. 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. There it is. The elder shall serve the younger, And who is the elder? Esau, man, which we're going to get into it. So it says, and Yahweh Bashem Yahushai said unto her, Rebekah, 2 nations are in thy womb. So Jacob and Esau represent 2 nations on the planet Earth, man. You know what I'm saying? It ain't just about 2 people like, the unlearned or these dumb, Christians or whoever that may read it with no understanding would think, man, oh, that's just talking about Jacob or that's just talking about Esau. No, man, it's talking about 2 nations. They each represent a nation, And Jacob represents the nation of Israel, which consists of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, and Seminole Indians of Negro descent. And of course, the scattered seed, that may not come looking like the typical Israelite, because our seed has been scattered due to the curses. We went off, and our seed got scattered. We got scattered throughout the 4 corners of the earth, and we were spreading seed, man. Therefore, our seed was scattered. You know what I'm saying? And we, of course, Jake procreates with these different nations, man. We've always thought from even back during the time of the sons of God that the daughters of men were fair, man. We've always thought these nations were nice. That's why Jake to this very day hooks up with these other nations, man. So that's Jacob, and then you have the Edomites, Esau, who are the red biblical Hebrew Edomites, which consists of the so-called self-proclaimed white man, woman, and child today, man. You know what I'm saying? Those are the 2 nations, the so-called whites and the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, man. And that's why there's always constant friction between the so-called whites and those sects of people, man. They don't really have a lot of problems with any other nation of people, other than those people, man. You know what I'm saying? So, which it's been said in the earth, it's always black and white issues, when technically really it's brown and white issues. There's no such thing as a black person, and there's no such thing as a white person. There's 2 biblical color schemes in the Bible, and that's red and brown. And the only red people on the planet are the Edomites, man, the so-called self-proclaimed white man, woman, and child, which that's a mark that the Lord put on them going all the way back to the time of Cain in the beginning, Genesis, the heading, you know what I'm saying? When Cain killed his brother, Abel, the Lord put a mark on him, and that mark was taking his pigment, no melanin, So he became a so-called so-called white man, but really he was red, man. You know what I'm saying? That whole term black and white is a social construct that came about, I believe, in 1681, if I'm not mistaken. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, brown people, brown and red, those are the two color schemes. There is no black and white, so really brown. You know what I'm saying? So, but going back to Genesis 25 and 23, it says, and Yahweh Shai said unto her, two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. Separated. The Lord is a separatist. He ain't about that we are the world. Michael Jackson wasn't in the spirit, man. He was tripping out, man. The Lord ain't about coming together. He never has been. You know what I'm saying? That's why he confounded the nations back during the time of the Tower of Babel, man. You know, and you know, confounded the languages and you know, the whole thing, you know. So because the Lord is a separatist, you know. It says so two manner of people, they're totally different. You know, Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents. Esau was a man of the field. He was a cunning hunter, a man of the field. He was always out there, you know, hunting and out there with the animals, messing with the animals, you know, just like that dude. What's his name? The crocodile hunter, I believe is his name. You know, the one that got killed by the stingray. I can't remember his name. But yeah, that's what they do, man. Prodding and poking at the animals and messing with the animals out there in the field, man. You know, moving around. That's what they do. So that's the two different manner of people. We're totally different, man. You know. But we came out the same loins of the same one man. And it says, and the one people shall be stronger than the other, which you can clearly see when you look into the earth. The blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans are stronger. They're better than the so-called white man, man. You know, we're stronger than them. We're better than them in every way, man. You know, in every facet of the word. You know, they cannot compare to Jake, man. You know, so the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. So the elder is going to serve the younger because they're servants, man. So let's jump down to verse 20. Well, we'll just keep reading. Verse 24. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And these are not identical twins. They were fraternal twins. It says, and the first came out red all over like an hairy garment. So here's the eldest right here. This is the older brother. This is the firstborn. And the first came out red all over like an hairy garment. And they called his name Esau. So Esau was the first. He's the elder. So it says the elder shall serve the younger. And after that, verse 26, and after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold of the Esau's heel, which represents the taking down of these devils. You know, beginning and starting with our big brother Yahweh Shai. The nation of Israel is going to take them down. And his name, because Yahweh Shai is an Israelite as well, man. And his name was called Jacob. There it is. So Jacob was the younger brother. So Esau, like we read in verse 23, the elder shall serve the younger, is a servant meant to serve Jacob, man. You know what I'm saying? And that's what's going on, bro. That's what it is. There's nothing can be done about it. Esau can mope around and try to change things up and hide things and cover up and delete. And he can scratch, claw, cry, yell, scream, roll around, whatever, run around like a maniac. It don't matter, man. All these things are written and they're going to happen, man. You know what I'm saying? And there's nothing anyone can do about it. And this prophecy right here was before their birth, man. You know, this was a prophecy that they were going to serve before they were ever born, man. You know, so these devils are through, man. You know, they're servants. You know, so let's jump over to Genesis the 27th chapter and get another one. You know, and we're going to drop down to verse 29. And then we're going to drop down again. This is verse 29, Genesis 27:29. It says, let people serve thee and nations bow down to thee. This is talking about the Israelites. This is Jacob, which represents the Israelites. Be Lord over thy brethren. Lord over thy brethren. Did you hear that? That's servants. The brethren, they're going to serve, man. These nations are going to serve, man. It says, and let thy mother's son bow down to thee. You bowing down and you know, and Jacob is lords over you. You're a servant, man. You know, which all of these nations are going to be, you know, are going to serve, but primarily these Edomites, and they're going to get it bad, man, very bad. You know, in this particular lesson is primarily about these Edomites, man. You know You know what I'm saying? So it says that thy mother's sons bow down to thee. Cursed be everyone that curseth thee, and blessed be he that blesseth thee. You know, so we're going to drop down to verse 37. But the point is that serving, man. Let's drop down to verse 37. Genesis 27 and 37. And Isaac answered and said unto Esau, you know, because he's crying for a blessing, I have made him thy Lord, and all his brethren have I given to him for servants. There it is, including Esau. Jacob is going to be Lord over everything, the earth, man, the universe. You know what I'm saying? You know, so these nations, you know, primarily devils, are going to be servants, man. And with corn and wine have I sustained him. And what shall I do unto thee, my son? And that's, of course, he going to go into begging and crying and pleading for a blessing of his own, man. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, servants, man. That's in their near future, man. You know what I'm saying? Servitude. And of course, that servitude is going to come by way of what? The throne of David, man. Yahushua will sit on the throne of his father David. As a matter of fact, Yahweh, the Most High Yahweh, promised that to him. So let's get that real quick in Luke, the 1st chapter, and we'll start around verse 30. This is Luke 1 and 30. It says, and the angel said unto her, fear not, who is Mary, of course, fear not, Mary, for thou hast found favor with the Most High, and behold, thou shalt conceive in thy womb, and bring forth a son, and shalt call his name Yahushua. Here's the point. He shall be great, and shall be called the Son of the Highest, and the Lord power shall give unto him the throne of his father David. There it is. The throne of David, man. You know what I'm saying? As a matter of fact, let's get the one in Isaiah. It's Isaiah chapter 9 and verse 6. And it reads, for unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. Of course, that's Yahushua. We just read it. Mary is going to give birth to a son, Yahushua. And the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty Power, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. And that government represents the 144,000. You know, the coming governing body of the nation of Israel that's going to govern the earth in righteousness, man. You know what I'm saying? And dealing with the priests, they wore what's known as an ephod. You know what I'm saying? And they hooked it over their shoulders, and it had the 12 stones on it, representing the 12 tribes. And Yahushua he's the ultimate priest, and that ephod with the 12 stones, representing the 12,000 men from each of the 12 tribes, man, which is the governing body, the elect. That's why it says that, for unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders, which represents that ephod, man, that the priests wear. And he's the ultimate priest, the ultimate high priest, you know. So that represents those 12,000 men from each of the 12 tribes spoken of in Revelation, the 7th chapter, man. You know what I'm saying? So it says, verse 7, it says, of the increase of his government and peace, there shall be no end upon the throne of David. There it is. And upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth, even forever. The zeal of the Lord of hosts, or Lord of armies, will perform this. So the throne of David is going to be established in the earth. And what did David do when he ruled, man, when he was in power? Well, let's get that. This is 2 Samuel, the 8th chapter, and we're going to read verse 13 and 14. As a matter of fact, I want this in the NLT. So let me switch this, Salakia. Let me switch this to the NLT. And this is 2 Samuel chapter 8 and verse 13 and 14, and it reads, so David became even more famous when he returned from destroying 18,000 Edomites in the Valley of Salt. You see what King David was doing? That's what his throne represents in these times, man. Same thing is coming again. He placed army garrisons throughout Edom, and all the Edomites became David's subjects, servants. In fact, the Lord made David victorious wherever he went. So, yeah, man, those servants and handmaids, man, you know, they're going to be servants and they're going to be handmaids. There's nothing that can be done about these things, man. So let's go back and put the KJV, and we're going to keep it going. Yeah, they're going to serve, man. And it just is what it is, man. They're servants, man. Esau is a servant meant to serve Jacob, man. You know, that's it. You know, so let's get another one. This is let's go to Psalms 60 and verse 8, and it reads, Moab is my washpot, over Edom will I cast out my shoe. Philistia, triumph thou because of me. You know, and again, Moab, washpot, servant, which both of those mean a servant to cast out my shoe. Over Edom will I cast out my shoe represents the same thing. When you kind of go into that, it's in relation to like a downward aspect, because they're going to be underneath us, man, beneath us. You know, they're going to be under our feet, man. You know, our boot is going to be on their necks. You know what I'm saying? So Edom is going to be a servant, and so is Moab, man. You know, all 17 nations have to pay, man. As a matter of fact, what's that scripture? First Maccabees, I believe the 2nd chapter, in verse 10. Let's see. That's it. This is First Maccabees 2 and 10. It says, what nation hath not had a part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils? There it is. Boom. No, that not one of them. I mean, all of them have. Salakia. You know, it says what nation had not, and none of them. All of them have. You know what I'm saying? So all of these nations have to pay, man. You know what I'm saying? So all of them are going into servitude, but this particular lesson is about Esau, man. You know, and they're going to get it the worst, man. They're going to serve the worst, man. You know, this is going to be the worst captivity ever in righteousness, man. You know what I'm saying? So Moab, my washpot, Edom will I cast out over my shoe. Will I cast out my shoe. Over Edom will I cast out my shoe is all servitude, man. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, Edom is a servant, and they're going into captivity, man. As a matter of fact, let's get that one in Isaiah, the 14th chapter. This is Isaiah 14, and we'll just start at the top at 1, and the point is in verse 2. And it reads, Isaiah 14 and 1, for Yahweh Bashem Yahushai will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them. And those strangers are the Israelite foreigners, man. These are Israelites. And they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And you're seeing that already in these times, man. You know what I'm saying? That's already happening. And the people shall, verse 2, here's the point. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai for servants and handmaids. So female and male. The servants represent the males, and the handmaids represents the females. And where's the land of the Lord? Over there in Israel, man. You know, so which is going to be the main headquarters here on earth, man. You know what I'm saying? When the righteous people are put back over there, the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, man. You know, none of these things are happening right now. This disproves those people in the land today call themselves Israelis and Ishes. Come on, man. Stop, bro. It says, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. You know, so there it is, man. And who's the oppressor? Esau. He's the hammer of the earth. He's oppressing the whole damn earth, man. You know what I'm saying? So the captives are, it says, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were. So right now we're the captives, but we're going to take them captives. You know, and we're going to rule over our oppressors, because they're oppressing us right now. That's why we're on the bottom of this society, and nothing goes our way. You know, we can't get a loan for business. All these nations can get loans and get businesses and they all. And Jake, we get denied all day, every day. Why? Because he's the head and we're the tail. You know, we're the lender, he's the borrower. You know, so that's going to flip, pursuing the Deuteronomy, the 30th chapter in verse 7. You know, because we're under the curses right now, and he's been under the blessings. You know, Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter breaks that down. The first 14 verses is basically the kingdom of heaven. And the 15 through 68 is hell, man. You know, that's your heaven and hell. Deuteronomy 28, that 28th chapter, man. And he's been in the 1 through 14. That's why everything has worked for him, and he's been getting all these blessings, got rich. You know, everything. You know, he's been that golden cup in the Lord's hand for a period of time, a particular time, like the scriptures say. But now we're at the end of that. And we've been in 15 through 68. And everything is about to flip because it was set up to go through both. As a matter of fact, let's get that real quick in Deuteronomy 30 and verse 1. This Deuteronomy 30 and 1. And it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse. See, both. We had to go through both. So they're going to go through both. They've been in 1 through 14. We've been in 15 through 68. Now everything is going to flip. And they're going into 15 through 68, and we're going into 1 through 14, which is in verse 7, which I'll drop down and read it in a sec. Which I have set before thee, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among the nations, whither the Lord Yahweh Shemel Shai, thy power hath driven thee. So let's jump down to verse 7. And this is proof that everything is going to flip. Deuteronomy 30 and 7. And Yahweh Shemel Shai, thy power will put all these curses upon thine enemies and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. So boom, everything is going to flip, man. You know, and that's what's going on here, man. You know what I'm saying? So let's keep it going. Let's go to Proverbs, the 19th chapter. And I think I want this in the NLT as well. Let me get the NLT real quick. And we're going to drop down to verse 10. It's Proverbs 19 and 10, and it in the NLT, and it reads, "It isn't right for a fool to live in luxury, or for a slave to rule over princes." Did you hear that? And that's exactly what's happening right now. These slaves, these future slaves, the near future, mind you, are ruling over princes right now. The princes are the Israelite men, you know, the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. But it says it isn't right for a fool to live in luxury. And these fools are in luxury, man. Yeah, they're fools. They're base men. You know, it says the children of fools, base men, the children of base men. What's that? I believe in Job, the 30th chapter, you know. And the scriptures are saying right here, clearly, it isn't right for fools to live in luxury, or for slaves to rule, or for a slave to rule over princes, you know, because you see the condition of the earth is through, man. You know what I'm saying? Under the hands of these fools, these luxurious fools, you know, which are slaves ruling over princes, man, you know. But everything is about to flip. We just read it. So those princes are about to take back what's theirs, beginning to start with our big brother Yahweh Shai. And those slaves are going into their rightful positions in the earth, man. You know, so we're going to stay in NLT, and I'm going to jump over to the 30th chapter. And we're going to drop down to 21 and 22. The point is in 22. Proverbs 30 and 21. There are three things that make the earth tremble. No, for it cannot endure. Here's the point, 22. A slave who becomes a king, which is exactly what happened, an overbearing fool who prospers. Boom. And this devil is definitely overbearing, and he's very prosperous. But he's a fool, man, you know. And he's that slave that became a king, man, because the earth has been given into his hands by who? The Most High, you know, Yahweh, you know. So, hey, why? Because we went off, man. You know what I'm saying? So the Lord had to teach us a lesson, you know. This is not our rest, man. This is theirs. Micah 2 and 10, you know. So, yeah, man, the scriptures say what they say. But this dude is a slave. He's a servant, man. And that's the position. That's his rightful position. And he's going into slavery, captivity, man, you know. That's what all these scriptures are saying, man. There's nothing can be done about it, you know. If you can't understand that, oh well, vocab Malone. It is what it is. You can think what you want to. But these scriptures are going to come to pass. The Lord, the Most High says in Isaiah 55 and 11, his word is not going to come back to him void, but it shall accomplish the thing whereto he sends it. He's a man that he cannot lie, you know. So, yeah, it's all good. So let's go to Romans, the 9th chapter. And we'll drop down to verse 12 and read 12. It said, it was said unto her, who? Rebekah, the elder shall serve the younger, because this is just reiterating the verse that we read in Genesis, man. You know what I'm saying? Because for vocab Malone, the unlearned, you Christians, they are the same things are being taught in the New Testament that's in the Old Testament because that's what they had. They had the Old Testament, bro. So that's what they were teaching. You idiots. Oh my goodness. So as a matter of fact, let's just read up and get in verse 10. It says, Romans 9 and 10. And not only this, but when Rebekah also had conceived by one, even by our father Isaac, for the children being not yet born, neither having done any good or evil, that the purpose of the Most High according to election might stand. So the Lord chose, and he chose the nation of Israel. He chose Jake, not of works, but of him that calleth. And the Most High made the call. And that's when it goes into what we just read. It was verse 12. It was said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger. So the elder, which is Esau, we proved that. The younger is Jacob. So Esau is going to serve Jacob. That's just what it is, bro. You know? And that was said from the beginning, man. So the heading, Genesis. So let's get this real quick. This is Isaiah chapter 46 and verse 10. And it reads, declaring the end from the beginning. So this is the end time prophecy that was prophesied in the very beginning, in the Genesis, in the heading, man. The beginning. Declaring that Esau was going to serve Jacob, man. You know? Declaring the end from the beginning and from ancient times, the things that are not yet done. This hasn't happened yet, you know, but it's going to. It's coming soon, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure. And what's the pleasure of the Lord? Let's get that real quick. I believe it's in Luke. This is Luke chapter 12 and verse 32, I believe. This is Luke 12 and 32. Here's the pleasure of the Lord. This is Luke 12 and 32. Fear not, little flock. Who is the little flock? The nation of Israel, beginning starting with the elect. Fear not, little flock. Red letters, Yahushua is speaking. For it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. That's the pleasure of the Lord, man. He wants to give the kingdom to the nation of Israel, and he's going to do so, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. And within that kingdom, these nations are going to serve, man. They're going to be servants, and primarily these devils, man, which it was always supposed to be that way. You know, when the Lord created these nations, he created them to be servants to his people, man. You know, but his people went off. That's the only reason this hasn't taken place yet. But now you have the remnant that's returning pursuant to Isaiah the 10th chapter and verse 20. They're getting it right, man. You know, they're actually fulfilling Deuteronomy 28. As a matter of fact, let's get that. Let's get it. Let's just read it. This is Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 1, and it reads, and it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua thy power, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua thy power, will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. Did you hear that? So the nation of Israel, beginning starting with the elect, are going to be set on high above, not equal to, not beneath, above all nations of the earth, man, because they're the chosen people of the Lord, man. You know, and then when you continue to read, it goes into all the blessings, you know, and all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee if thou shalt hearken or hearken unto the voice of the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua thy power. And the remnant is returning. The remnant is fulfilling this, man. So these things are about to happen, man. You know, the blessings are about to come. And guess what Esau is going into? The opposite, the curses, man. You know, we just read that in Deuteronomy 30 and 7, man. So I want to get one more in Ecclesiastes, the 10th chapter in verse 7, and then I got a couple of images I want to show because, again, when you can see it, a picture is worth 1,000 words, man. Ecclesiastes 10 and 7, it brings everything to life. It pops off the pages. Ecclesiastes 10 and 7. I have seen servants. Hello, servants. I have seen servants upon horses and princes walking as servants upon the earth. Now let's get this real quick right here. And here we go. You see this right here? See this image right here? You got Esau on the horse. That's the servant upon horses, and princes walking the earth as servants. You see all them jakes? so-called blacks and Hispanics, man. And primarily in this particular one, you see a lot of so-called blacks, man. You know what I'm saying? But Hispanics are mixed and mingled in there. You see one right there in the middle of the screen with the hat kind of over his eyes. That's a Hispanic dude. And I think it's another Hispanic behind that guy right there in the middle of the orange vest. And, behind that guy, the little shorter guy right there in the light blue jacket, another Hispanic. And it's one right behind the orange vest right there, Hispanic. As a matter of fact, that one right there in the white hoodie could be a Hispanic, But they're in there too, and they're mixed and mingled through there. But you see, those are the princes walking the earth as servants with the servants on the horses, man. Let's keep it going. I got some more images. As a matter of fact, let's go to, okay, let's go to this one first, You see it right there. Look at Esau. Look at his red ass. Son tearing his ass up. He's just red as he can be. But he's on the horse, and you see he's the servant upon horses, and here's the princes walking the earth as servants. You see that? Yeah, pictures are worth 1,000 words, man. It makes the scripture pop. You can really see it. And you got cats like Vocab will try to say that ain't what that's talking about. Get the hell out of here, man. Here's another one. Esau, clearly see it. Esau on the horse, and look at that. What that reminds you of, in the field over there, and which this one right here up front with the thing towel over his face could be a Hispanic, and but you see them out there in the fields, look like they remind you of slavery days out there picking cotton, but that's Jake, walking the earth as princes, and you got the servants. Salakia, the princes walking the earth as servants, and then you got the servants upon horses right there. Let's get another one. Here's a female version of it. It's a female. Go for them too. Same thing. You got a female Edomite upon a horse, and then you got the Israelite women, black and Hispanic. There may be a few Edomites sprinkled in there, but majority of them are, I can guarantee you, are black and Hispanic, man. Women, man. So it's the women too, But it's just, hey, man, you can't deny what you're seeing, man. The scripture said it, and now you're looking at it. Try to tell me that ain't what this is talking about. Here it is, Esau again. The servants upon horses, and then you got behind him walking the princes, walking the earth as servants, man. Which, again, blacks and Hispanics. I don't know, that cat in the white hat right here. He could, I don't know, he could be Hispanic, but he may be an Edomite. I don't know. But in the bucket hat right there, it's Hispanic, man, but, and there Hispanics are in there, but you can really see those so-called blacks, the so-called blacks in there. So we saw this one. So, and here's that ultimate, what's it called? The infamous, picture of the Roosevelt, that was on the horse. And he's got on the right of him a so-called Native American tied up, and on the left of him he has a so-called Negro tied up. They're walking and he's on the horse. Edomite, servants upon horses, and princes walking the earth as servants. And that's representative. This is very powerful picture because it's representative of the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, man. The Native American man on the left, or Salaki on the right over there, Northern Kingdom, and the so-called Negro here on the left is the Southern Kingdom, man. So that's both kingdoms. The Israelites, representative of the nation of Israel, and look at these doubles riding high upon horses, man. Servants upon horses, and princes walking the earth as servants. That's what that scripture is talking about, and that's what but it called them servants. It says servants upon horses, and princes walking the earth as servants. That's all about to change, and it's about to change soon. And everybody's going to be in their rightful places very soon. Our big brother's Yahushua is about to crack these clouds, and it's going down when he gets here, man. And he's about to change everything up. And we can't wait, man. So, with that, hopefully this was edifying to the hopeful elect. Giving all praises, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Buhara Kakwadash. Double honors to the apostles, the elder bishops, and the elders of the great millstone. And peace and blessings to the elect, the house of David, the Bayath, Shal Dawadat, Shalom.